Welcome back to another episode of Who Cares Anyway, the podcast where I just come and impart my sports opinions. And honestly, if you agree with me, then you agree with me. Cool. If you don't, you don't. Cool. Who cares anyway? It's just sports. Um, this week was originally going to be an episode focused on Bronny James. Uh, I kind of postponed that so I could do a little more research on him, and he ends up declaring for the draft and entering himself into the transfer portal. We'll get into that next week. Stay tuned. This week though is mock draft 2.0. NFL mock draft 2.0. The draft is in 10 days or so. Yeah, 10 days. Um, I the For those of you on YouTube, it's been a couple weeks since you guys have seen an episode. Uh, there's a lot to deal with. Burn my hand. Burn is fine now. We're good. We're good to go. We're back. Um, but last week, or for those that did see the episode or hear the episode, I guess, because it was on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where you can also find me. Um, Same name. Don't forget the question mark. Um, I did a mock draft, made some not crazy changes, but some trades within the draft that I thought were gonna that I thought would work out for certain teams. Uh, Mainly was done based off of need and fit, not necessarily best available. There was some best available. And just go listen to it. I'm sitting here explaining. Um, but there were a few mistakes I wanted to clean up in there, and moves got made. Justin Fields got traded finally. Uh, a couple other free agency moves. Calvin Ridley going to the Titans. Gabe Davis goes to Jacksonville. Stephon Diggs gets traded to Houston. So there was a lot that made me have to put out a second version. Um, I guess we should just get into it. Without further ado, redundancy. Uh, Pick one. I have what seems like the unanimous pick one, the unanimous number one pick in this year's draft. Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears. Uh, Watching film on him and watching him play, it's like watching Patrick Mahomes all over again, uh, which isn't a bad thing. Patrick Mahomes is 28 and he's got three Super Bowl rings in four attempts. So I don't know if Caleb Williams will end up on that level. Only time will tell. But right now, he definitely looks like the best prospect in this draft. Uh, the one knock I've seen on him is that a lot of his plays come off schedule, and that there's a concern of his ability to create while on schedule, meaning you know off a drop, one hitch, throw a receiver open. But I mean, if you really watch him, the things he does, it's not like he hurts his team in any kind of way. Uh, and he might just give Chicago the quarterback that they were looking for when they drafted Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a little more of a runner than Caleb Williams is, and they tried to force Justin Fields into being a pure passer with the ability to run instead of a runner with the ability to throw, kind of like Lamar Jackson, which that's a whole other conversation. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Justin Fields is an excellent thrower. It's just he runs better than he throws. It happens. Um, but 100%, I think this is pick one, and this is the best spot for. Maybe not best spot for Caleb Williams, but it's gonna allow both of these teams to grow together. Both of these teams, both Caleb Williams and Chicago Bears, to grow together in a way that Justin Fields and Chicago couldn't before. Uh, with the second pick, I have Jaden Daniels going to the Washington Commanders. This pick, I've been seeing numerous mock drafts flip flop between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. And I think Jaden Daniels works here because you have the stability, kind of, but you have the stability in that Washington roster at the receiver spot in Terry McLaurin. You've seen what he's been able to do over the last 3-4 years. Um, you can go out and get vets at the receiver spot to tide you over until you really find a receiver that you like, or you find a quarterback that you feel is good enough to supplement the receivers, or vice versa. Um, your running backs aren't terrible. You just got Austin Eckler. Defensively, you're solid. So I think you go out and get one of the most dynamic athletes at the quarterback position. Uh, watching him run, the things he does, it's not just like, oh, speed. It's his ability to to hit a different speed, but also take any hit thrown his way. He bounces off of guys when he runs, and then the arm talent is there too. Uh, he did benefit from having basically two number one receivers, but uh, that doesn't take away from the fact that he was already that good before he transferred into LSU. Um, and I don't know if this will transfer into the NFL immediately, but you know, I think a lot of scouts and a lot of teams like it when they see a quarterback with the ability to see something at the line and make a change if need be without coach telling them to. And like I said, I don't know if that's going to translate immediately because rookies kind you have to that's something that you have to build up with trust. So usually when a rookie quarterback comes in, he's not going to have that ability unless he shows that he can do it early on. Uh, but I think Jaden Daniels here definitely turns around that Washington offense. It allows Terry McLaurin to not skyrocket, but now he's playing at a higher level. You get Austin Eckler, and that takes pressure off of Jaden Daniels, both in the run game and in the pass game, because that gives you a check down, easy safety valve that's really good at what he does. So to follow that up, I have the New England Patriots taking Drake May from UNC. I didn't. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see like their colleges and stats about them and stuff like that. I didn't read. It happens. We'll get better. Just gotta be better. But Drake May, honestly, to me, I saw before even making this, I saw maybe 2 minutes of not even maybe like 30 seconds of film, which amounts to maybe a play and a half, two plays. But like it wasn't a whole lot, and I immediately saw him as possibly the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft, which would beg the question, why is he going third? But teams draft for upside rather than drafting for immediate readiness, I guess. Like most teams in the NFL are going to draft for a player's ceiling unless they're ready to win right now. And if you're at the top of the draft, you're not ready to win. Like you're a couple years off of winning, whereas guys that are ready to contribute right this moment and might be already at their peaks kind of get passed over or they kind of slide because you don't know how long that's going to sustain, which is why older guys or 4-year guys tend to fall later into the draft. Tangent aside, uh, I just feel like Drake May is the perfect solution to replace Mac Jones. I understand that you went out and signed Jacoby Brissett. Um, Jacoby Brissett is a great bridge quarterback. He's played in multiple different systems. Uh, he's had success in different systems, but he's not a long-term sustained winner. So at some point, you're going to have to give the keys to a new quarterback, and I think that quarterback is Drake May. Uh, he's got. I don't want to give him a comparison, but he kind of like Aaron Rodgers type size of Josh Allen, but doesn't run as much as Josh Allen. Um, but when the play does break down, he will get out of the pocket. Usually steps up into the pocket instead of trying to roll out on the outsides and get to the sideline. Uses his size well, uh, but it's not like he's afraid of contact, and he can stand in the pocket and make throws just before getting hit. Which there are a few quarterbacks that can do that in this year's draft. Uh, and the only downside I could see with him was he's got that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality. He's the type of guy that's going to try and fit every pass into every window, and sometimes it gets him into trouble because he's trying to fit a ball into this maybe half step window against some really good corners. Like I'm pretty sure against Clemson, he threw I think 2 picks. One of them to Nate Wiggins, who I also have going pretty early on in this draft, and we'll talk about him in like 10 picks. Uh, but I think regardless of that, he can make every throw with accuracy, great accuracy at that. Uh, he has great playmaking ability, can get out of the pocket if need be, and I think he turns. Not that I want this to happen, but I think he turns the Patriots around offensively and gives a new start to Gerard Mayo. And uh, I'm not going to say win now, but they'll look better than they did last year. And the Patriots offense has never revolved around first round receiver talent. So, and they've been fine. So they can wait until day 2, day 3 to get a receiver that can really help them and allow Drake May to succeed. With the 4th pick, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. going to from Ohio State, the Ohio State University, going to the Arizona Cardinals. This is another one of those unanimous picks that I've been seeing. I feel that it's the best fit. It gives Kyler Murray, the quarterback that the Cardinals just claimed over the summer. I was about to say over the summer. We haven't even hit summer yet. Uh, Early on in the offseason, that K1 is their guy. K1 is their franchise quarterback, and they're going to run with him. Which is not a bad plan because when he's healthy and he's playing well, he's an MVP caliber quarterback. And I think adding Marvin Harrison Jr. to that roster is going to do wonders for that. Uh, I don't want to say easily, but I'm gonna say easily the best receiver in the draft. Every route he runs is fluid. When you watch it on tape, it doesn't take him a lot of time to get out of breaks. He's not choppy when he runs his routes. He's rarely off balance, um, and it doesn't really show in last year's tape because he was playing with subpar quarterback play. But even then, he made Kyle McCord look really good just because of how good he is. He enormous catch radius, can adjust to any ball, and then he has the ability to make plays after the catch as well. It's not like he's just this big possession receiver that can go out and catch anything, but he can also make that play after the catch. It's just one of those complete receiver types that you see every so often. Like I feel like Julio Jones is one of those complete receivers that can do anything a receiver should be able to do. Uh, and I think, like I said, I think this just elevates both Kyler Murray. Well, it's more than just both because that would imply two, but it elevates Kyler Murray, it elevates the Arizona Cardinals offense, and it elevates Marvin Harrison Jr. to a level that they haven't been at yet. With the fifth pick, I have the Los Angeles Chargers taking Rome Odunze. And this pick was interesting to me. Last mock draft I did, I had them trade down to the Vikings pick. But I think right here, you stay at 5. You just lost your top 2 receivers. You're in a receiving core full of youth, but you don't really know what you have, so you're trying to find that hidden gem. But all 3 of the guys in your receiving room that are going to be starting haven't really shown much. So you go out, get another top 5 receiver, top 3 receiver in the draft. In the open field, he's got ability to do anything. Breaks tackles well, can, you know, get you out your shoes a little bit. Uh, his ability to go up and catch anything, body control is crazy. He makes, how they talk about some quarterbacks being able to make any throw from any platform. He can make any catch from any platform. Um, he's in addition to being this explosive and skilled playmaker, he's also got the smarts to go with it. He's got the ability to read defenses just as well as a quarterback might be able to and understand, okay, well, they're playing zone. I'm going to sit here. There's nobody here. Or this dude's about 5 to 10 yards off, and this other dude's like 15 yards to my left. So I'm going to just sit. And when you have a receiver like that, it makes, I don't want to say it gives quarterbacks a safety valve, kind of like how you review a tight end or a running back out of the backfield. Because those guys are usually the guys that are going to be really easy to find. Rome Dunze is one of those guys that's going to be really easy to find, but not just because he can read the defense and find a hole, but he can also just win. He does a great job of winning off the line, and whether it be press or off man, he wins in his routes. And with that ability, the Chargers offense takes a step forward, and it gives Justin Herbert possibly a receiver he can really trust. Because outside of Keenan Allen and Mike Will last year, before Mike Will's injury, it was slim pickings over there. And the moment Mike Will goes out with that injury, it gets a little harder. So I think this is the perfect pick for them to kind of ease some of the pressure off of Justin Herbert and allow him to be where he was a couple years ago. It doesn't excuse the fact that they have the worst tendency to lose the largest leads, but it happens, I guess. Moving on to the sixth pick, I have the New York Giants taking J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from a school that shall not be named. Watching his tape, and it made me feel weird to say, but the kid, the kid, the dude's good. He's got an accurate arm. He's got pretty good arm talent. Can make almost any throw. There was a couple throws in there that I was like, "Ooh, that's a great ball." Just one of those throws where it's just put in the perfect place for a receiver to get to, where no one else could really get to it. Just perfect. Um, Kind of reminds me of Jared Goff. He's the type of guy that's gonna thrive in a play action setting where you feed off the running game. The run game creates the passing game, not the other way around. Well, and then the other way around, I guess. But uh, I think this is best fit for both JJ McCarthy and for the Giants. JJ McCarthy gets a spot where the Giants want to run the ball. They might not have a running back to do it with right now, but they want to run the ball. They're going to be really sad that they let Saquon walk. Um, but JJ McCarthy is going to thrive in that play action setting. And if this works out, this is the perfect time to move on from Daniel Jones. Uh, Daniel Jones obviously isn't the answer. Even when he's healthy, he's not that good. I feel Giants fans just have a uh, they have a habit of sensualizing or over sensationalizing players. Like Daniel Jones ain't it, bro. Um, Moving on to the seventh pick, I have Joe Alt, tackle from Notre Dame, going to the Tennessee Titans. Uh, this this is one of the this is the best tackle in the draft, but watching his film and usually watching offensive lineman film, you're struggling to find things that are, I don't want to say interesting, but that really jump out and that aren't just, oh, that's a regular block. But watching his tape, man, seeing a 7 foot monster behemoth getting around on a pull down the line before a running back to go and get that seal block and open up that hole for the running back, it's a thing of beauty to watch when it's done well. And like I said, 7 foot behemoth. His mobility is off the charts. You don't really see this in a 7 footer in football that often. Um, and opens the door for Tony Pollard now. Uh, it allows Tony Pollard to show what what I'm sure he knows he can be as a running back. And he didn't get that chance to show it last year in Dallas. But new start with Tennessee, and it allows Will Levis, a guy that kind of came on strong last year. Like a lot of people were a little skeptical. Tannehill They sit Tannehill. Will Levis comes in and he's lighting the world on fire for a little bit, and then he kind of cooled down. But we'll see. We'll see what this year brings. And I think with a put him on either side, he works well. But with new protection at that on at one of those bookend spots, uh, it allows Will Levis to kind of stand in the pocket strongly and confidently and get the ball to Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. With the eighth pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons taking Layatu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA. Uh, the Falcons had a great offseason offensively. I didn't really catch wind of anything they did defensively, and I think this is a great place to start. This is my top edge rusher in the draft. He's got great bend, is a menace to deal with on the end of the line, can also slide inside and play kind of like a D tackle, like a hybrid, kind of like a Myles Garrett, kind of like what Myles Garrett does, like a hybrid type of DN. Um, and it's not just speed or power, it's speed and power, which a lot of DNs don't have. They just have either one or the other. You have speed or you have power. This this dude watching tape, especially against USC, he terrorized Caleb Williams in the pocket. Like he lives in the backfield because of his ability to get off the ball quickly and get by a lineman with just pure speed or bully a lineman into the backfield. And, he has an endless bag of tricks to go to when trying to counter a lineman and make another move off to win that battle. But this is a dude that is gonna make this Falcons defense even better than they were last year. And they were really good. And I think that surprised a lot of people. Um, but they were really good defensively last year, and I think this gives you a pass rusher that's gonna really change the game as your offense tries to get better. With the ninth pick, I had so the Chicago Bears originally have this pick. They might not trade down. I think they're going to trade down because at nine, who you get Caleb Williams. Yeah, you could go receiver, but do you really need? It's iffy. I think you could trade down. I think the Bears could trade down and they'd be safe getting a receiver later on in the first round. But they trade down to 28. Bills trade up to 9. And I think the Buffalo Bills take Malik Neighbors. Uh, th- this dude he's got the tools to make any play. He's got the tools to make explosive plays. And he's got the tools to replace Stephon Diggs. Do I think he's going to do it right away? No. Do I think he's ever going to really become Stephon Diggs? No. He's going to become Malik Neighbors, and he's going to, play his own way, but it's going to fill that void. And I think watching him, watching his tape, watching his ability to break tackles, make plays after the catch, the speed, not so much. I think he's way faster than Deebo is. But his route running ability as well, it reminds me of Deebo Samuel. Watching his film, it's how often are you going to see Malik Neighbors get open? He's open almost all the time, and he's got the athleticism to make a lot of acrobatic catches, adjust in the air well, and I think this gives Buffalo and Josh Allen a weapon that they can use, and it gives Malik Neighbors a place where he knows he's going to be the top guy for as long as he can sustain it if he's successful. Um, Moving on to the other quote unquote New York team, is a little invalidity with that statement, as they play in Jersey, which I'm upset about. But the New York Jets, uh, I have been taking Brock Bowers with the 10th pick, tight end from Georgia. This is, and lately there has been a lot of good tight end talent coming out of the draft, but I think this is the best that people have seen immediately. People didn't really know George Kittle was going to be that good when he got drafted. Same with Sam Laporta, but I feel like you watch Brock Bowers' tape, he's going to be that good. He's a dual threat guy, kind of like George Kittle. He's a little smaller than George Kittle, but definitely reminds me of George Kittle. Uh, he's tough as a blocker and has the ability, the the receiver skills that everybody wants in a tight end nowadays. He's got the route running ability. He's got great hands, and he's a tank to take down after the catch on the run. So this gives the Jets and Aaron Rodgers uh, another potential target, not potential, but another target for a position that Rodgers has used frequently throughout his career. I mean, he had, what was it, 2, 3 years with Jimmy Graham, and has used tight ends past him pretty often. Uh, so it gives Rodgers a guy, a, a potential star at the position, and allows Rodgers to be comfortable in that Jets offense. With the 11th pick, I have the Vikings taking Mike Penix Jr., quarterback from Washington. This dude, watching him throw the ball, left-handed quarterback. It's always interesting watching left-handers throw the ball. Um, but he's got a huge arm. Uh, Ball jumps off his arm like a rocket. Uh, he makes any deep throw look effortless. Uh, he throws he throws with accuracy. It's not like he's just willy nilly throwing the ball downfield, or just like just throw it up there, wherever it lands, it lands. No, he's pinpoint accurate. He also has the ability to read blitzes well. He diagnoses where the blitz is coming from quickly and can get the ball out of his hands or get himself out of the pocket. Um, the only downside that I saw isn't anywhere on the tape. He's just got an injury history. He had, I believe, 2 torn ACLs in the span of a year, or 2 lower leg injuries. Well, not lower leg injuries, knee injuries in the span of a year, in the span of 2 years. Which is why he transferred from Indiana to Washington. But like I said, he's got a big arm. He's uh, deep throws are effortless, accurate, and he gets the ball out of his hand quickly with great control over his velocity. Like being able to being able to know, all right, I gotta put this in a certain spot. It can't be a line drive. It can't be a frozen rope. It's got to have a little bit of air under it. It's got to come in a little softer. Um, and I think that this takes the Vikings in a direction that I don't think Kirk Cousins would have been able to take them. Um, that's just my opinion. With the 12th pick, I got the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos taking Bo Nix, quarterback from Oregon. This is a kid. He's probably 3 years younger than me. This is a guy that has been a 6-year starter, Started, I want to say 2, 3 years. I believe it was 3 years at Auburn. Um, and every year been that he started, I've seen the transformation in the quarterback he is. When he got to Oregon, it really changed because I think Oregon allowed him to kind of play a simpler game, and it was a little more spread out, um, and fast paced. But the accuracy has improved. The mobility has always been there. The ability to get out of the pocket and create with his feet. Um, but now you just add his ability to create with his arm. He's been a starter a long time, and he's played in some big games, but you question his winning ability. Um, but I feel like that's also in part on coaching. He did have a lot of coaching turnover while he was at Auburn, which made him leave Auburn. But I think that and he may be accurate, but on deep throws he either doesn't have the arm or isn't as accurate. Um, and that kind of I feel like that would make him slide on a lot of teams' boards. But I think he warrants a first round pick. He's got the upside for it, and placed in a stable environment with the ability to just learn and hone his skills. I I think he can make a team very happy, and I think that team is the Broncos. Broncos have at least two really good receivers in Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. Um, they got a couple other things to figure out. Their offensive line isn't bad by any means, but I think grab Bo Nix, grab a guy that's got experience and can play make for your receivers and himself, and that'll make Sean Payton a happy person. And the Broncos might start winning games again. Might. I don't know about that. Moving on to another AFC West team, the Las Vegas Raiders with pick 13 take Nate Wiggins. There was a report that came out a couple of days ago that said that the Raiders aren't going to be looking at quarterbacks in the first round, which I'm not surprised. Uh, and that they'd be looking for either tackles or corners. I think they go corner here. Nate Wiggins is top three corner in this draft. I think he's number one. I think he's 1A. We'll get to 1B in a couple picks. But I think that this is a dude who's blindingly fast. He ran a 4.240. I don't have the exact number, but it was maybe like a 4.25 or faster. And when you put that kind of speed on the outside, on the boundaries as a corner, that's a game-changing corner. He's got the ability to close from seemingly anywhere. Um, he can track down the ball like a receiver would be able to, and plays both coverages really well. Plays man well, plays zone well. His speed allows him to make up for a lot of his mistakes, and he's going to make mistakes because that's just the nature of the NFL. That's just the nature of playing corner in the NFL. Um, but he's aggressive when he does close, and only downside that I've seen kind of thrown around about him is that he's undersized, maybe not undersized, but a little lean for his position, and he might have injury issues. He did get hurt during the combine after running his 40, strained his hamstring, but I think in a setting where he's able to play loose and play his game he's gonna excel and he's gonna stay healthy. And I think that because of that, that warrants him being picked in the top half of the draft, and he's gonna take that Raiders secondary and give it talent that they haven't had there in a few years, and make that and kind of start to turn that defense around on the back end. With the 14th pick, I have Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from LSU, going to the New Orleans Saints. Um, this is, like I said, LSU had two number one receivers. We talked about Malik Neighbors earlier, and this is the other number one. This is a guy that could easily fill the hole left by Michael Thomas if Michael Thomas doesn't come back. Him and Chris Olave are going to make a really good duo, potentially. He has his mix of speed, his ability to track the ball, his height, allow him to be a really good deep ball threat, but also allow him to be kind of like that underneath guy. Like he can run your slant, he can run slants, your crossers, because you know he's going to be able to make that play after the catch. And uh, he also because of his size and his ball tracking abilities has the ability to make the 50-50 ball plays, the jump ball plays. And especially if he's got an undersized corner on him, it's like a piece of cake. As long as the ball is accurate. Um, that's really all I gotta say on him. I kind of said everything. He's. I think this is a fit poised to make a real impact on both on the Saints offense and Derek Carr's career. Because I think if Derek Carr has a really good year this year, it kind of changes how people see him. But the Saints have to make win a playoff game. It had to be a lot. But I think this helps Derek Carr tremendously. With the 15th pick, I have Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama, going to the Indianapolis Colts. This is in that conversation of best corners. This is 1B. He's a really great corner, great man cover corner. My only problem with him on film is that he gets a little handsy. Um, he likes to put his hand grab. When I say handsy, I don't mean just putting hands on receivers. You can do that, but grabbing jerseys, pulling, tugging, stuff like that tends to get you penalized in the league. So that's my only issue with his game. But that's gonna be covered up because he's gonna play primarily zone coverage, and he plays that well too. Um, this would be a great addition alongside Kenny Moore, and a guy that has no issues filling in the run game. He fills his run lanes, keeps contained well. He can shed blocks from some pretty big offensive linemen. Um, and he's always around the ball, always. So those two together, it kind of takes a defense that isn't really bad on paper and allows that defense to play a little freer, I guess, and in turn allows their offense to play freer with Anthony Richardson coming back off of injury. Um, with the 16th pick, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. Uh, this is a dude I was off my radar completely before I started putting this together. Um, and then I watched film on him, and he's a menace. He gets off the line extremely quickly. He has the length to kind of extend away from offensive linemen and diagnose the play if need be, or create a different rush lane for himself or teammates. Um, the only problem I really saw with him is that he can get a little tall or a little too low at times, which throws him off a little bit. But I think if he fixes that, this will be a tremendous help to the Seahawks defensive line, and placing him between Leonard Williams and Draymond Jones, that's not a bad front three on paper. And it allows that secondary to kind of not take plays off, but it takes a little bit of pressure off that secondary because now you have guys that are going to get to the quarterback. With the 17th pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. Uh, I've seen people say that this is the best edge rusher in the draft. He's he's really good. Not my best. I don't think so, but he's not far off. He's an amazing sideline to sideline kind of guy. Has great speed to close, coming off the edge. He sets the edge really well with strength and anchors the edge of that line. Keeps contained well against mobile quarterbacks, and he's gonna need it in the AFC South with guys like, I mean, Anthony Richardson is the runner of the other three quarterbacks, but um, C.J. Stroud and Will Levis aren't exactly statues. But you know, like the thing that jumps out at me watching his tape is the speed. It's the speed, his ability to free flow sideline to sideline, can also kind of play in a rover, like hybrid linebacker kind of role. Um, can cover backs out of the backfield with his speed. And this addition, adding him to what the Jaguars already have in place on their D line, might you might see shades of Saxonville coming back, and it might make this Jacksonville defense a force to be reckoned with again. And I think that's the thing that's going to help Trevor Lawrence excel offensively. With the 18th pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. Um, this pick was interesting to me because the Bengals went out, got a few free agents to kind of help them in their needs. The only spot they didn't really help was tight end and corner, I feel, but they went out, addressed their offensive tackle need, and I believe they went out and addressed their D tackle need. But if they didn't, there are other D tackles that you can take on the second day of the draft that are really good, just not first round talents. But Adonai Mitchell, I think in this spot, I don't want to say replaces, but it gives them that third receiver that is going to get a lot of attention from Joe Burrow because Jamar Chase is getting a lot of attention from the defenses, from opposing defenses, as is T. Higgins. And if they end up trading T. Higgins, Adonai Mitchell slides right into that spot that T. Higgins just left. This is a guy that changes direction really well. He catches almost anything thrown his way. He's a little bit of not a hands catcher, a little bit of a body catcher at times, but that can be worked on. That's just skill that has to be learned. And he could stand to improve as a blocker and has a tendency to disappear or just kind of stand around if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. But again, when you get to the NFL, you kind of start to work on the things that you haven't been working on. So because you want to keep a job, so I think that could easily be worked on. And like I said, it gives the Bengals a a potentially very productive third receiver and possibly a second receiver if you end up trading T. Higgins. With the 19th pick, I have the LA Rams taking Byron Murphy the second, defensive tackle from Texas. Um, Another pick that kind of like threw me for a loop because I had a couple. There's a couple options to go with here, but I feel like this is where you start. I heard from somewhere, I was watching some sports television show talking about the NFL, and it makes sense. But you build from the inside out when you're building a team. So offensively, that means you start with your old line, and then you quarterback, and then you build out. You continue go receivers, running back, so on. Defensively, that would mean you start in the middle of that defensive line with your defensive tackle, and then balloon out to your linebackers, then your corners and safeties. And with Aaron Donald just up and retiring at the beginning of free agency, I I didn't see anywhere else you could go. He's not gonna. He's obviously not gonna be what Aaron Donald was, and that's fine. But this is a guy. He might be a little smaller, but his speed, his power, the the number of moves he can use to beat guards and centers with immensely makes up for it. Uh, this is a guy at the when I watched him at the combine, he impressed me. I mean, there was a couple of nitpicky flaws, but on tape, when he's just again able to play freely and instinctually, he's really a force to be reckoned with. He's really a guy that's gonna take up a lot of attention in the middle of that defensive line and really kind of set that or really help the Rams tide over the loss of Aaron Donald and kind of retool as they try and figure out what's going to work and hopefully make it back to the Super Bowl for them. With the 20th pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle from Washington. Um, this is another guy, like I said earlier, offensive linemen to me are one of, I don't want to say boring, but it's not always entertaining because it's not a flashy position. But this is a guy that really jumps off on tape. He's got great speed. Um, I don't have his 40 time here in front of me, but if I'm not mistaken, he ran like a 5.5 40 or something like that. And that's like tight end speed for a tackle. Like that's a fast dude. Um, but not only is it the speed, it's the strength. He attacks with strength off the ball quickly, and the strength in his lower body allows him to absorb pass rushers as they try to bull rush or as they try to speed rush off the edge at him. Um, and this gives the Steelers a possible upgrade. I don't want to say it's like a definite upgrade, but if he pans out, this upgrades the Steelers' offensive line on either end. He can play. I feel like he can play left or right tackle. I think he spent his time in college on the left side. He might be a little on the smaller side to play that left side, or he might just be comfortable sliding over to the right side. Um, but this this would allow the Steelers to kind of figure out what they have at the quarterback position, um, and whether or not Justin Fields is going to be that guy for the future, and if Russell Wilson can help them win now. With the 21st pick, I have the Miami Dolphins taking Jackson Powers Johnson, interior offensive lineman from Oregon, and I label him interior offensive lineman because he can play center or guard, and he's got great command of the middle of that O line. He may not have had many starts in college, but watching him get up to the second level on double teams, um, you know, watching him anchor the middle of the line, it kind of made me think that he could play guard. He might lack a little bit of the quickness to get around on those long poles, but I feel on kick out block, like, shorter pulls, kick outs, double teams up to the second level. I think he has that kind of like short field quickness. And the Dolphins already had a pretty good run game last year, and Tua was upright for most of the season. But I don't think it could hurt to bring in to kind of bring in a shiny new car, and you move on from the broken down one, or from the one that's not working too well. So I definitely think that this helps the Dolphins offensively. Not that I want that again. AFC East rivals, not cool. Uh, with the 22nd pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Quinyon Mitchell, corner from Toledo, and this is a pick and every time I've done this, I've had the Eagles taking a corner because they have two 30-plus year olds playing corner, and they did not play well last year. Um, so you bring in youth in that position, and you go and get it in a guy that some people are saying is the best corner in the draft and could be a sleeper, number one QB sleeper cornerback one. Um, he's aggressive when he closes on the football. Is another guy that's around the football at all times. Um, really good at timing his pass breakups and timing his hands for when to go for pass breakups. Uh, he's not only aggressive closing and closing down on the play, but he's aggressive as a tackler, has no fear, doesn't matter who you are. Um, and he gets in and out of his back pedal and out of his brakes really quickly, really really fluidly. Only downside I see is that he has a tendency to get lost in coverage a little bit at times. Just kind of like more so focused on his coverage instead of the play in front of him. But like I said, could be the best corner in this draft, despite that. Um, and this is to me perfect fit for an Eagles team that's employing two 30-plus year olds, which is like a senior citizen to the NFL at this point. Tom Brady is an outlier, and um, in hopes that the Eagles can kind of turn their defense around. For the next pick, I have the Minnesota Vikings at pick 23, who the Browns traded out of the first round and gave it to the Texans, and then the Texans traded out of the first round and gave it to the Vikings. So now the Vikings have it. And I have them taking Darius Robinson, defensive lineman from Missouri. This is a guy jumped off the screen at me when I was watching the combine. He's a big, long armed guy. Uh, Played in the interior of the defensive line in Missouri his sophomore year, and then moved out to the edge last year and played both exceptionally well. He can change direction really quickly, reroutes well to the ball. I have in my notes Swiss Army knife, and that's kind of what it is. He can play all over that defensive line, and they just lost Danielle Hunter. So, and this is why I say that my last mock draft was more focused on the need instead of best player available, and I feel like that's what a lot of teams are going to do in the first round. It's Sometimes it depends, but I think that they go out and get Darius Robinson, and it gives them a potent pass rush again, and that's where the Vikings have always thrived when they've had it. Um, the rest of that, for me, I think of Vikings and I think good defense before I think of good offense. The Vikings have never had great offenses outside of like the Randy Moss, Chris Carter years, but they've always been known to have a good defense, and I think this is a defensive lineman that can contribute to that. Um, with the 24th pick, I have the Dallas Cowboys taking Taliese Fuaga. Interesting name, kind of cool to pronounce. Um, Offensive tackle from Oregon State. This is just fit the need kind of pick. You just lost Tyron Smith to the Jets. Thank you. I appreciate you for the charity. Um, but he's got fluid feet. He's able to keep pass rushers in front of him, but he's also able to go up and make blocks on the second level or on, screen passes like suicide screens or, I guess I'm really not supposed to say that word, but, uh, you know, running back screens out of the backfield. Um, he's great blindside blocker, but also could play on the front side and be a lead blocker kind of type. Uh, the only con I see with him is that he's tall, first off, but his height leads him to kind of rise after the snap too high. So he'll tend to be his pad level will be a little too tall, a little too high. He tends to sit back on his heels. Um, but that's that with work that can be fixed, and this gives Dak needed protection because Dak doesn't excel without protection, and it can be questioned if Dak excels at anything. But that's a conversation for another time. With the 25th pick, I have the Green Bay Packers taking Cooper DeJean, defensive back from Iowa. And this is one of those DBs that he's a DB through and through. Like he can play corner or safety. Um, he's got great range, which is why he can play that safety role. He can play deep middle. He can play a half of the field on his own. He closes really well. He's already a great zone guy, so I think he would lean a little more towards safety in the NFL. His man skills have a little to be desired of, but they're not terrible. Um, and he can return punts if need be, if you want. He's he's got that kind of talent. Um, he kind of reminds me of Ha Clinton Dix, a guy that the Packers had a few years ago. Um, he's just got that. He's that rangy defender. Sticks his nose in there at the line of scrimmage as well, um, and tracks the ball like a receiver. Watching his film, it's like watching a utility knife. Like the kid can play all over that defensive backfield. Um, and this gives the Packers a versatile defender that can play either corner, safety, nickel, dime. He can do whatever you ask of him because he's got that talent. With the 26th pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. Uh, the one knock I've seen against him while I'm researching and putting stuff together is that he lacks length, lacks the prototypical length for an edge rusher in today's NFL. But man, does he make up for it with his ability to speed rush off the ball? Gets off the ball quickly, beats tackles with speed. It's one slap of the hand go. It's not. I'm not. He's not trying to dance with you. He's just gonna get off that ball and go. Um, and he has the ability to at times kind of surprise tackles, like some tackles with just how strong he is and his ability to bull rush and kind of seat the tackle in the lap of the quarterback. Um, and every time on film, he's in the backfield. It's like he's never not in the backfield. He's got a home there, paid off in full, nice view. And I think that this gives Tampa a potentially great pass rush and a guy that can go get sacks for them. And this is a team that had a defensive back be second on the team in sacks last year. So that's a problem. And they're trying to fix that. And I think they do it with this pick. Moving on to pick 27, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. This was another pick. I didn't really know where to go with it. But looking at their roster and thinking of what they have in place already, I think this is just best fit. Um, this is a guy that is going to help the Cardinals be able to keep up defensively with the great offenses of the NFC West, um, and the great receivers of the NFC West, really. Um, he's got one of the toughest jobs on the field. You know, he's not the number one guy that everybody's not going to throw to. He's the guy that is that maybe secondary corner that's going to get picked on a little bit, but he plays that role with intelligence. He's prepared every time he steps on that field, and he plays it with toughness. He has, I don't want to say innate, but he has an ability to be able to get receivers off their timing and their routes. Like I don't want to say. I keep saying but if you know, you know. Uh, you push a receiver off his route by a couple steps, and it completely throws everything off. Um, yeah, like I said, it gives the Cardinals defense a chance at really keeping up with some of the great offenses in the NFC West. Um, Moving on to the 28th pick, where I had the Chicago Bears trade down to, I have them taking Chop Robinson, edge rusher from Penn State here. This is a guy that on film wasn't, I don't want to say lacking, but he wasn't crazy, like, in your face. Like, this guy's really good, but he is really good. I mean, he's going to be a first round pick, albeit end of the first round. But he's got crazy speed. He's explosive off the ball. He's got a little bit of power to him. It doesn't show up very often, but he will catch tackles off guard, like smaller tackles off guard, bull rushing them when they're or tackles that are looking for a speed rush. Um, he doesn't really have because he doesn't have that power. He doesn't really have the ability to beat every tackle or shed a lot of blocks, and that leads to him getting stonewalled at the line or forced into a direction where he's not trying to go, and it opens holes for a run game. Um, but if he's able to add more strength to his frame, um, his upside is near immeasurable. And if he develops well, it'll give the Chicago Bears a defense that is feared again. I think when the Chicago Bears are good, they have a feared defense. And I think this is a step, possibly a step towards doing that again, towards being that again. With the 29th pick, I have the Detroit Lions taking Keon Coleman, wide receiver from Florida State. Um, he's a guy that can make not any play, but has the ability to make big plays after the catch. He breaks tackles well. He creates in space. He's known for making contested catches, tough contested catches at that. Not just, this DB's got a hand here, but no, like DB's on him, white on right style, and he's got arms draped around him, and he still makes the catch. Um, he works aggressively back to the ball, uh, and to go with his ability to make contested catches, he's pretty good at winning those jump balls, winning those 50-50 balls. Uh, he struggles a little bit with press man, getting off the line and trying to beat that corner, especially if they're physical. But it may not be too much of an issue because with Amon Ra and Sam Laporta being the defensive focus, he might get a little bit of a cushion, and he has the ability to play inside or outside, which also might kind of keep him hidden, I guess, or might take a little bit of that focus off of him to allow him and the Lions offense to trend upward and give defensive coordinators nightmares because this Lions team looks like it's going to be really good for years to come. With the 30th pick, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking J.C. Latham, offensive lineman from Alabama. He played right tackle at Alabama last year. He could move in and play guard. He has that kind of speed, getting around on blocks. He's a little impatient at times, which might lead him to kind of lunge or lean too far forward, causing him to miss blocks. And now his assignment is free run to the ball. But when he's on time and he's patient, he's got speed, he's got power, and can stop a lot of pass rushers in their tracks and put them on the ground. Uh, but don't be surprised if the Ravens go receiver here. It's quite possible. Uh, Receiving core of Zay Jones, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar doesn't really instill me with the most confidence that this is going to be a great team offensively. But it's Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a playmaker, and I don't want to say he's done it with less, but he's got Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews back from injury. So it might not be a receiver. They might just go offensive line to keep Lamar healthy and upright and to open holes for Derrick Henry. With the 31st pick, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Amarius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. Um, he's 6'8", and like I said with Joe Alt at the top of this, Joe Alt is a 7-foot behemoth able to move like he's a tight end. Uh, Amarius Mims has the ability to bend really well for a guy that's 6'8". He's really able to anchor himself on the end of that offensive line and wall out pass rushers. He places his hands really well. Is very technical about where he places them and how he places them. Not the level you might want him to be at as a run blocker, especially in an offense where the run game is kind of the focus, especially with Christian McCaffrey. But I think that he gives Brock Purdy amazing frontside protection, and who knows where that 49ers offense can end up next year. And they might end up right back in the Super Bowl. And with the 32nd pick, last pick in the first round, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, taking Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia. Originally, I had the Chiefs taking a tackle here, but I think looking at their receiving core, your only given is Rashee Rice, who it took him the better part of last season to kind of come into the fold and produce. But I think that the Chiefs need to add someone alongside on the other side of him to kind of distribute a little bit of the pressure and add another productive body. McConkey is a great route runner. Watching him run routes, it's like watching Julian Edelman or Wes Welker. He's just a technician when he runs his routes. He's not super fast, but he has just enough speed and quickness to kind of break away from slower defensive backs and take the top off the defense if the defense isn't paying attention. Um, he's not really strong, doesn't accelerate well in the middle of his routes. So if he is playing against press, that DB might be draped all over him, and it might be a little hard for him to create or get through his route. But I think this gives Mahomes a great second option on the outside, and it gives him another target over the middle of the field. And you just allow McConkey to go run for 15 yards. So will it be a formula that'll lead to another championship? Who knows? Because they're the Kansas City Chiefs, and you never know. But I think that this will really help that offense out. And with that, that is the end of my mock draft 2.0. All 32 picks in the first round. And with that, I'm out of here. I'm done. I got nothing left to say. Uh, if you enjoy, if you're on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, share it if you want, tell people about it. I feel like never mind, I'm not going to say that. Anyway, also, I can also be found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Um, that's really it. If you want to talk to me about sports and you know how to get a hold of me, then by all means, talk to me about sports. It's a passion of mine. But that being said, I'm out of here. I will see. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm done. I'm done. Get me out of here.